So we're going to solve multi-step equations. Many steps. You'll definitely need to know the rules of integers. And if remember, if they're the same sign, we just add them. -3 and -4 is -7. You just add them up and keep the sign. If they're different signs, you just subtract them. 5 minus 2 is 3, but there's more positive. -8 plus 6, there's more negative. Just subtract. 8 take away 6 is 2, but there's more negative. All right, and if you can see that there's like a double negative, it makes a big plus. Okay, that's for the combining, if they're adding and subtracting pretty much. But then on multiplying and dividing, if we're multiplying and you have one negative, it's negative. But if there's two of them, it's like saying the opposite of negative. And so it comes out to be positive 6. Those are the rules. And the same thing goes with multiply or divide, with division. One negative, negative. Two negatives, they cancel. All right, so just go ahead and multiply or divide the numbers and then count the negative signs, the symbols. There's one negative, it's negative. If there's two negative signs, then it's positive. Two negative signs will cancel each other. Think of that when you're multiplying or dividing. So different rules. So with multi-step equations, at least today, there are 4 steps. The first step we'll use is distributive property. If you remember distributive property, that's taking the outside number times each one inside. Okay, then we have combining like terms. And that could look different each time. But for example, in this case, you have a 4x plus 2 and a 5x. Hey, the x's, they are like terms. You can combine those, and that will give us 9x. 9x, and then you have a 2. You cannot put the 9x and 2 together because they are not like terms. If we were multiplying, we could do that, but we're not. We're just trying to combine them. Okay? The next one is to get rid of the constant. So when you get to a 2-step problem like this, then we would want to get rid of the constant. Now remember, there's a left and a right side. This is also a constant. It's a number without a variable. However, this is the side we want to get rid of. We want the x all by itself. We want to get rid of the 4 and then the 8. So we have to get rid of the constant. We do that by adding or subtracting. In this case, you would subtract 4, and you'd have to do it to both sides. And then down here, the coefficient is 8. Okay, it's the number next to the variable, multiplying or dividing the variable. And to get rid of that, I would divide by 8. But you'd have to do it to both sides. All right, here's our first problem. The first step is distributive property. That means you take this outside number times each number inside. All right, and this number right here in front of the x is a 1. So what does that give us? 6 times x, or 6 times 1 is 6. 6 times -1. 6 times 1 is 6, and there's 1 negative. So it's negative. I'll bring the rest down. Okay, now we have is, let's see, do I have any like terms? Remember, we're solving this left. We want to get rid of all the numbers except for x. Let's see, I have a 6, -6, and an 8. I can put these together. -6 and 8. So they are different signs. 8 take away 6 is just 2. And there's more positive, so it's positive 2. I'll put a plus in front of it. And then I have a 6x. I'll just bring that down. And I'll bring down the rest of the equation. 2-step problem. So our next step is to get rid of the constant, right? That's positive 2. I will subtract 2. So I'm trying to make this 0. That's 0. I'll bring down 6x. Bring down the equals. 32 minus 2 is 30. Now you can see your answer, but in case you cannot, to get rid of the 6, to eliminate it, you would need to divide by 6. So if I do that, that becomes a 1. 1 times x. 1 times x is x. 6 goes into 30 5 times. How do you check this? Take the number 5, plug it back into there and see if it works. And 5 minus 1 is 4. 4 times 6 is 24. 24 plus 8 is 32. It works. So how do we solve that? We did distributive property, combined like terms, eliminate the constant, and then eliminate the coefficient. By the way, coefficient is with 2 F's. I often make that mistake of misspelling. Okay, our first step is to use distributive property. By the way, this is a positive 4, not a negative 4. So it's this times everything inside. That's a 1x. And that's a positive 9. So 4 times 1 is 4. And 4 times 9 is 36. They're both positive, so it's a positive 36. I put a plus in front of it. I'll bring the rest down. Now, is that a positive or negative 4x? That's a positive, so you put a plus in front of it if it's positive. And I'll bring down this 5. So we did distributive property. Okay, the next step, let's see. Oh, I have some stuff I can put together. It's called combining like terms. So I have a 5 and a positive 36. I'm going to bring this 4x down now. So 5 and 36. That makes 41. I'll bring the rest down. I'm trying to keep my equals lined up. Okay, what's the next step? Now we have a 2-step problem. So our next step is to take care of the constant. So I will subtract 41, both sides. Okay, so I'm making this 0. That's 0. I'll bring down the 4x equals, so I have negative 3 and negative 41. They're both negative. They're both the same sign, so I just add them up. 41 and 3 is 44. And they're both negative. Next, last step to get rid of the coefficient. I'm going to divide by the same number to make that a 1. So now it's just 1x or x. 4 goes into 44, 11, and there's 1 negative. And if we want to check this, see if it's correct, you take negative 11, you plug it back in there. Negative 11 and 9 makes negative 2 times 4, negative 8, plus 5 is negative 3. It works. Okay, number 3, our first step, distributive property. So take the outside, that's a positive 3, times each one inside. That's a 1, and that's a positive 4. 3 times 1 is 3, so that's 3x. And 3 times 4, that's 12. They're both positive, so it's a plus 12. All right, now this is a positive 3, so I'll put a plus. I'll bring down the x. I'll bring down the 20. Remember, you have a left and a right side you're solving. And let's see, what do I have any like? That's right. The next step is to combine like terms. Notice I have 1x and 3x's. So basically I can put these together. This is invisible 1. So 1x and 3x is 4x. I'll bring the rest down. Now we have a two-step problem. And our first step is to eliminate constant. And the constant is 12. So I would subtract 12 because I want to make that a 0. Now it's 0. And now I just have 4x. So I'll bring that down. 20, take away 12. And you can see your answer, but just in case you cannot, to eliminate this 4, this coefficient, that's times, so you have to divide. You have to make it into a 1. That makes it into a 1. And so I have to do the same to the other. 4 goes into 8 twice, and there's your answer. And you can plug it in to see if it works. And it does. Oh wait, I better check. So if I take 2, and I put it in there for x, I have 2 plus 4 is 6, times 3 is 18, and this is a 2. 18 and 2 makes 20. It works. Okay, so looking at it, the first step is to do distributive property. Outside times each number inside. So 5 times 1x, that's 5x. 5 times 2 is 10, but there's one negative. So when multiplying, one negative means it's just negative. Bring the rest down. Okay, remember, there's two sides to the equation. So we're concentrating on this left side here. We want the variable by itself. Notice that we have two things that are the same. Two like terms. We have this 5x, positive 5x, and we have a negative 8x. So let's put those two together. So if we do that, negative 8 and 5. They're different, so subtract them. 8 take away 5 is 3, so it's 3x. Oh, there's more negative though. So it's negative 3x. Bring the rest down, so it's minus 10. There's my equals. Okay, next step. Is to get rid of the constant. The constant is negative 10. To get rid of negative 10, to make that a 0, I want this a 0 and I want this a 1. To make this 0, I add 10, but you have to do it to both sides. You have to be fair. That's 0. Negative 3x equals, and on the right side, negative 34 and 10. They're different signs, so subtract. 34 take away 10 is 24. But there's more negative, so put negative in there. It's negative 24. All right? Last step. Coefficient. To get rid of the coefficient, to get rid of the negative 3, I would simply divide by the same number. Don't do 3, you want negative 3. Because we want this a 1. Negative 3 divided by negative 3 is 1. And 1 times x is x. On the right side, 3 goes into 24, 8. Two negatives when dividing cancel. And there's our answer. To check it, take the number, plug it back in.